Welcome back live at noon. As I said, there's a certain gentleman up at Queen's Park who's causing Liberal government gas pains. His name is Vic Fedeli. He joins us now, and thanks for coming in. Question period's over today. Yesterday you had the Justice Committee meetings, and it's all about the cancellation of the gas plans. The Premier, in a press conference yesterday, reiterated that she said, I'm providing all the material to the opposition, all of the documents. They have it all or getting it all. No one still knows how much it costs. What's going on?
Well, that's simply untrue. We still at this point do not have all the documents. Ever since the Premier has said you're going to have all the documents, we now don't have any more documents.
Really? And a lot of the documents that you were given previously are redacted. In other words, they're blanked out.
Yeah. So a lot of the documents have big black marks. I held them up in the committee room yesterday and said, you know,
what does it say?
Who covered this up, right?
Yeah.
I asked Joanne Butler, the Vice President of Ontario Power Authority, I said, you know, here's a memo. Did you cover this up? And she said, no, when I turned all of my documents over to the government, there was nothing redacted. So by the time the government got them and then turned them over to us, somebody covered them up. Somebody took a black marker and covered up things
so
they don't want us to know.
So how are you going to get to the bottom of this?
We'll just keep asking as we go down the list of people, do you know who covered it up? Do you know who blanked out this page? We'll just keep digging until we find the bureaucrat that did it. And
do you think that, or it could have been the politician?
Well, I could very well have been, because the government clearly is driving this bus.
Will you get the documents, you know, in an unredacted form so you can find out how much it costs?
That's what I think is being hidden from the public today. Those documents that are covered up clearly tell us how much this is going to be. Yesterday, the OPA acknowledged that the figure of $40 million that the government uses for Oakville was only the sunk cost, and there would be hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of millions in addition to that, but the government knew that right from day one, that $40 million was never a true number.
Okay, now the president of Metrolinx, which is dealing with transportation across the city, and whose firm is also lobbying for one of the casinos, also, I understand from your hearing yesterday, was hired by the government to negotiate the cancellation of these contracts.
So here
are you going to call him?
Well, clearly we have to, because he was brought in by the government to come in and do negotiations with OPA, with the Ontario Power Authority. So here you've got, as you said, the member of other boards within the community of Toronto, who's now been reined in to bring either, you know, carry out the government's wishes, because OPA clearly wasn't. OPA, the Ontario Power Authority, was clearly operating under the government's instructions and providing contracts in the hundreds of millions of dollars only because the government instructed them, and we want to know what Mr. Pritchard, his role specifically was in this. So,
Vic, do you have any idea yet of the amount of money that was burned up, of the taxpayers' money that was burned up? I mean, we had last week some official saying over $800 million. The Premier said for both plans, previous Premier said it was $240 million, only $240 million. What's your gut tell you now? So
the Ontario Power Authority also brought documents that backed up Mr. Bruce Sharp, the engineer from last week, that said $828 million, except where he had a number of $313 million for one part, the OPA says it's more like $450 million. So that brings it up closer now to the $1 billion. It's $991 million when you look at the revised number from OPA. But that's not the point. The real point is it's not $40 million that the government swears it is. It's not $40 million. It's hundreds of millions more, and they knew it all along and stood in the legislature and told us, fellow legislators, that it's $40 million. So this is going on a long time, though, and you're trying to get the answers. And I mean, why can't the committee meet more often? Is the government blocking that as well? No, we meet frequently. We meet Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mean, that's a lot of time. We're only there 4 days a week, so this is 2 days of the week we're there. You need a lot of time to hear the testimony, so that's all day Tuesday and a half a day Thursday, because Thursday afternoons are votes. So, you know, it's like a baseball game, right? We're in the first inning. You know, we've had a couple of runs, we've had a couple of hits. We're going to see some home runs some days, and we're going to see some errors on others. But it's a long haul, and but we need to get to the truth, because the government is clearly covered up the documents and clearly has spent hundreds of millions of dollars. And all taxpayers want to do is find out how much money was wasted. And you know what it did? It doubled your hydro bill in the last 9 years under the Liberal government. Who turned out the lights? Vic Fedeli, thank you very much for coming in. That was a pleasure, Stephen. Okay, so Anne, there you have it. There's